Welcome back. This is to discuss December 2020 CL1 Advanced Audit and Assurance paper. Hope every one of you getting ready for the upcoming examination. So before moving up with the paper discussion, please get ready as usual with the materials. Number one, the paper print out if possible, and the answer script written by you, answer script given by CS Sri Lanka, study pack volume 1 and volume 2. If you look at this paper, according to me, it's not easy. Paper is a bit difficult because a lot of practical scenarios, practical applications have been tested in the paper. As I told you during our previous webinar series, so this is your final auditing paper in your CA curriculum or CA journey in becoming a chartered accountant. Therefore, all these practical scenarios, practical application of advanced auditing techniques, theory will be tested in your paper. So according to my prediction, so the paper looks like that. So paper has gone into even MCQ. You can see the MCQ, you can see in the paper we will be discussing. Sometime one question is half a page. It's very long scenario based question. So therefore it's very much important for you to not only to study the theory but also apply your theoretical knowledge for the practical scenarios by practicing the revision kit questions as well as the past paper question, especially KC4 and KB4 past papers as well as pilot paper and the mock examination paper, right? So before moving up with the today's discussion, I just thought of taking you all through for a 5 minutes because now we are getting very close to the examination. There are few matters you should remember when you are attending a paper like this type of practical paper or a application based paper. There are few important aspects you should remember, and the way you approach the paper is slightly different with compared to another subject. So I want to highlight on those angles for 5 minutes, and after that we will go directly for the question discussions, right? If you see, I just want to highlight few things. If you see this paper structure, the paper structure basically there are 3 sections, section 1, section 2, section 3. The section 1, 10 multiple choice question, 20 marks, and section 2, 4 short scenario question, and section 3, 2 long scenario question. Since we are very close to the examination, and also sometime this will be useful for the next batch students as well. So basically MCQ questions are not easy in any type of exams in this world. It's always difficult. Remember that. You may feel the MCQ questions are easy, but that is not the case. So therefore, give the adequate time or adequate attention in practicing the MCQ question given in the revision kit or any other sources in the ACCA question or any other sources you can refer with regard to the advanced audit and assurance, not the normal audit and assurance. So in my comment here, this is not generally easy to score if you have not practiced enough questions. Mindful reading and common sense play important roles in getting higher marks. So mindful reading means, so at the examination time you should not be stressful. You have to have a very peaceful mind, or a very it has to be like a natural thinking process. If you are stressful, then the automatic thinking will not work in your mind. So therefore it's very important for mindful reading and common sense. Don't come to an immediate conclusion that this question is or this answer is correct. So while I am discussing the question, I will tell you in detail how to think on that. So and the section 2 basically is not a difficult area. If you see the 4 short scenarios, those are not difficult questions. Or even if you are doing a selective studies for particular section, these questions can be answered. But again, the part 3, the long scenario question for a 40 marks, so practice or similar questions are important and need to have a good understanding on the audit inflows, especially the risk assessment and risk response audit procedures. So that has to be there because these long case scenarios are based on a practical audit risk assessment, risk response or another scenario in relation to the auditing flow. So therefore you have to have a good understanding in the flow. Even if you are not even if you don't have a good understanding on the auditing flow, if you have practiced enough questions, the one thing I should tell in this auditing paper, the similar type of questions will be repeated in the again and again, because this auditing is a very, sometimes it's a narrow bounded area where the same thing only could be tested again in another angle. So therefore, if you understand the logics of auditing, even if you can't remember anything in the study text by memorizing, that doesn't matter. You can think and write the answers for the long case scenario question. So why I want to tell you here, why I want to show this 3 section to you. So upcoming examination, just decide. So what will be the, now sometime you will not be able to answer for all the questions, or you will not be able to write the answers for the entire 100 marks because of time limitation, or you were unable to study. But we are not recommending selective studies, but unfortunate during this pandemic time and all, you might have not studied in a certain section. For you to have a understanding what you should attempt first, second, third, likewise to have a organized writing skills or a writing approach, for that purpose only I told these 3 information. Right. So next, I thought of telling another important aspect before moving to the discussion. So key matters to remember at the examination. These are the very common mistake that all our students do. So this is not applicable only for auditing subject, but may be applicable for all the application level subjects. So remember these 8 bullet points. So these are very important things. Certain things will help you, or certain thing will assist you not to miss certain, or not to miss the marks, or sometime in a rush when you are reading the questions, sometime you may miss. To avoid that, only these informations are very important. So read the full question carefully at least twice, and the required section at least 3 times. This is very important, the required section. You have to read the question, required section. Ek action verb එක තියෙන පුළුවන් assess කරනවා කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්, evaluate කරනවා, explain කරනවා, discuss කරනවා. So this is important. The required section at least 3 times. Question you can't read more than twice because it takes longer time, because all are case scenario based. But the required section, even if you understood, just read again. Sufficient attention should be given to action verb highlighted in the question and marks allocated. These are important aspect as it reflects the expectation of the examiner. So this I used to tell even during the previous webinars. When you are getting, let's say this is your physical examination. If it is a physical examination, carry a highlighter, take a highlighter to the examination hall, and when you get the paper, please, before reading the question itself, highlight the action verbs and the number of marks. These are interconnected. You will not miss the marks, or you will not miss the question. Action verb plus the number of marks. Sometimes most of the students are going wrong, because sometimes the required section says evaluate 3 incidents or 3 scenarios, but the number of marks given 6 marks. Sometimes you just write the point form, all 3, just you write the point, you will get only 3 marks. So this is not intentionally done because of the pressure at the examination. It may happen. To avoid that only I am recommending you take the highlighter, highlight the action verb already highlighted at the examiner, but you again highlight and the number of marks. Then automatically your mind picks that, okay, look here, this is a 6 marks, you have to give attention to that, or you have to write the adequate quantity in the answer. And the next third important thing most of our students do, don't rewrite the question. සමහර අය හිතනවා එක්සැමිනර් මේ ක්වෙස්චන් එක දන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම නැත්නම් බලන එක්කනා මේක කියවලා එනවද නැද්ද දන්නෙත් නැහැ. ඒක නිසා මම ක්වෙස්චන් එක ආපහු රීරයිට් කරනවා. දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදියට, as example I have seen some of the students. Now we are telling, write, let's say, list 3 indicators which could cast significant doubt about ability to continue as a going concern. There is a question. List, action verb. What you do? You rewrite the heading again, and you are rewriting the question. So examiner is not expecting for you to rewrite the question. Examiner is well aware of the question. So therefore, write to the point without wasting time. Don't rewrite the question. Don't try to write the heading and to have a very good explaining too much more than the marks allocated. So this is a game. This is the examination. This is so this is within 3 hours. Your level of knowledge is tested, and you have to manage, and you have to get the 50 marks. So therefore, these strategies will be important. Then time management is very important, as practical scenarios contain large volume of information. If you look at the December online paper which we are going to discuss today, the large volume of information. So if you have the paper, you can see, so the paper contains basically 14 pages, right, 14 pages. So it's a very large content of information. It takes a lot of time for you to read, so therefore time management is important. So what I recommend is, when you are going for the examination, always mark the timing for each question that you are going to allocate. Let's say you are going to take 10 minutes for the question number 3, that means short scenario 10 mark question. So let's say 10 minutes or 15 minutes you are taking. So you put the time in the paper itself. You are going to attempt this paper from 9:45 to 10 o'clock. Put the, not the 15 minutes, put the timing that is going to end. Then you have automatic control with that time. In the next question, let's say question number 6 for 20 marks, you are taking 45 minutes. So then you write the 10 to 10:45. In that period you are going to write that question. So when you have that control automatically, so you will be able to manage the at least 90-95% of questions within that 3 hours. The next one, all the answers should be linked to the accounting framework or where relevant. So, you know, I have told you the auditing, there is no auditing without accounting. So therefore, wherever you write the auditing question answers, where possible, you have to link with the relevant accounting standard number, or at least to write according to the Sri Lanka accounting standard. And then what's very important, answer in point form where possible. So it's very, again and again, this is important. Don't try to write the too much of information. අපේ සමහර අය ඉන්නවා මේ විස්තර ලියන්න නැතුව නිකන් අර කියන උපතින් ගෙනල්ලා වගේ. සමහර අයට නිකන් ලොකු විස්තරයක් ලියන්න ඕන නැත්නම් හිතට හරි නෑ වගේ. එම හිතට හරි නෑ වගේ එක අදාළ වෙන්නේ නැහැ paper එකට. It's not applicable for your examination. So you have to write the answer in a point form, but always look at the number of marks allocated by the examiner. Then the last important thing, common sense would play an important role in understanding the question and keep the below in your mind. Common sense, what I meant by common sense. So common sense mean, what I meant here is that, you know, you have to have a mindful reading. Now there is a question, there are 4 answers, there are 2 answers, both are same. You cannot identify what is correct, what is wrong. So in that moment, sometimes more than the theoretical knowledge that you have, more than that, your common sense, like common understanding, like intelligence, like practicing of questions will come into there. Even though you don't know the theory, so you can't apply the theory. Even if you know, in that moment, the common, that is what I meant as a common sense, right? So that is another important aspect you have to develop in a subject like advanced auditing. There's a red line. Immediate answer that comes to your mind may not be the correct answer. This is a golden rule in auditings. Immediately if you get some answers, I don't say it is wrong, it may not correct, it may not be the correct answer, it may not be the correct answer. So therefore, what I am trying to tell here, even if you get an answer immediately, you have to rethink whether this answer is correct or wrong. That is the important message that I want to give. You have to rethink whether this answer is correct, only at least one more round to reevaluate the answer, because the chances of wrong conclusion or wrong answers in auditing are very high if you don't think beyond the boundaries or beyond the boxes, right? So these are the things which I want to highlight, because you are getting close to the examination, right? Now let's discuss the MCQ question of the December 2020 online paper. But before starting the MCQ question, so you should remember one golden rule in attending or attempting the MCQ question: elimination theory. Elimination theory mean, what is that? This is not a theory in auditing, this is elimination theory. You cannot identify, you should not try to identify the correct answer, you should try to identify the wrong answers and remove them and get into the 2 answers. Generally, so in the world, in any MCQ based examination, generally you can easily remove 2 answers, but there will be 2 answers interconnected which are very close. So then you have to think on that little bit beyond the boundaries and select the best, most appropriate answer. So therefore, elimination theory. or elimination is not a theory actually. Elimination means you are identifying the wrong answers rather correct answer, right. So I am going to go with the December online paper, so please take a note, take a paper with you as well, because while the questions are discussed, I will be going into your theory aspect as well for you to look at certain thing beyond the examination paper. Right, so this is since this was an online examination, this is a 3.5 hours, but normally it's our 3 hours plus 15 minutes. So, and also this was a open book examination because of the online examination, but the original concept of the CL1 paper of the new syllabus introduced in 2019-20 for a 2020-25 syllabus, it is a closed book examination. I hope that all the next examination will be closed book examination. But I want to emphasize one thing, the subject like auditing, whether if it is a open book or whether it is a closed book, it doesn't matter, right. It doesn't matter because you can't get a support from the materials, because all these are scenario based applications, right. So I can remember those days in the KC4 papers, KC4 auditing paper, our students carry all the materials, like there's a big bag and carrying everything to the exam hall and again taking back to home without looking at anything. That is what happening in the open book exam. So there is no, actually you can't use because there is no time to use. Right, let's start with MCQ. The question number 1. Question number 1. ITZ Private Limited is engaged in the manufacture and sale of computer hardware products. Consider the following controls. Sales invoices are sequentially numbered. Sales invoices are matched to customer orders. Weekly review of an open customer order file. Good dispatch notes are matched to the sales invoice. Which of the above controls of the sales system of ITZ ensure that all the goods dispatched are invoiced correctly? මාර ප්‍රශ්නේ. දැන් මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ දැක්කහම ඔඩිටිං සබ් පේපර් එකම එපා වෙනවා. දැන් මේකට උත්තරයක් හොයාගන්න බෑ ගොඩක් අයට. ඉතින් ඔඩිටිං ප්‍රශ්න පත්‍රේ එපා වෙනවා, ඔඩිටිං සබ්ජෙක්ට් එකත් එපා වෙනවා, චාර්ටරුත් එපා වෙනවා මේක දැක්කම. Right, so this is natural in the CA examination, any professional examination. So I will tell you few golden rules I have told you. One is the elimination theory, where you have to identify the wrong answers. The second, one of the important thing I told you, if you can't answer for this question, if you don't know anything, skip the question for the moment. Skip the question and then after attending to the easiest question, or let's say other MCQ question, and come back and think this question leisurely, rather wasting too much of time, as well as rather getting discouraged in attending the other question. So that is a second golden rule, so that you should remember. Third golden rule, I have already told that the immediate answer that comes to your mind may not be correct, right. So with regard to this question, ITZ Private Limited, in the question discussions I told you, ITC Private Limited, these are very important in auditing questions. Whenever you see whenever you see the company name Private Limited or a PLC, you have to highlight using the highlighter, because in auditing Private Limited or a PLC, when we are auditing Private Limited or a PLC, so sometimes the treatments are different or the theories are different. So therefore, it's very important for you to highlight the ITC Private Limited, engage in manufacture and sale of computer hardware items. The business nature also important, because most of the controls or most of the audit procedures will depend on sometimes the nature of the business. So there are 4 controls given. Sales invoices are sequentially numbered. We know this is a good control. Sale invoices are matched to customer orders. Weekly review of an open customer order file. Good dispatch notes are matched to the sales invoice. There are nice 4 controls are given. This is a hardware company. This is a IT company. Company is a private limited company. Which of the following controls of the sales system of ITC ensure that all the good dispatch are invoiced correctly? Which of the, careful reading, mindful reading, which of the above controls of the sales system, which of the above controls of the sales system, this is we are talking about a sales system of IT is that ensure that all the goods dispatched are invoiced correctly. The control objective here is, you see, control objective is all the good dispatch are invoiced correctly. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි යවපු බඩු ඔක්කොම ඉන්වොයිස් වෙලා වෙනවද නැත්නම් වෙලාද කියන එක එන්ෂුවර් කරන්නට කළමනාකරණය විසින් දාලා තියෙන පාලනයන් මොනවාද කියන එක තමයි අහන්නේ. All four controls given are controls in relation to the sales system, but the question specifically asking what are the controls that ensure all the good dispatch are invoiced correctly. Look at the board here. So we discussed this during our webinars on internal controls practical application. There is a customer A, right, and let's say the supplier B, right, we'll say IT is it. So A sends, we know A sends a purchase order, right, and then so B may be dealing with the performance invoice and all that is internal control what we discussed, and if the credit limit approval and all that is there, and after that so B will be, let's say this is the company premises. Let's say this is the company premises. So B company. Right. So what happened? Internal documents. So when the goods are dispatched to the customer, generally there is a source document, good dispatch note, right? Good dispatch note are raised, right? In addition to that, you know, the invoice also raised because invoice is the source document for you to recognize the revenue, right? So in addition to that, there will be another source document. We discussed this one, gate pass, right? So credit approval forms, performa invoice evaluation. Likewise, there are so much of controls involved in the sales process. This is linked to sales. This is a sales process, right? So in this sales process, there are a lot of controls. Now the question specifically asking, all the goods dispatched are invoiced correctly. All the goods dispatched, good dispatch note, all the good dispatch are invoiced. Otherwise what would happen? බඩු යවනවා ඉන්වොයිස් එක දාන්න. මොකද වෙන්නේ? බඩු කම්පැනි එකෙන් යනවා අපේ රෙවෙනියු ඕගනයිස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපිට ආදායම හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right. So therefore, there should be a proper control between the invoice and the GDN, good dispatch note. There should be a proper control whether these things are taken out from the store and taken out from the company premises until it is delivered to the customer. There should be adequate internal controls in place in the business organization. That is the overall objective of the examiner on testing by giving this question. So now the examiner is not touching the entire internal control, but the examiner is touching the internal controls which are relevant to good dispatch note and the invoice. Why this particular control is there, good dispatch note and the invoice, why there should be interconnected between these two, that is the control objective tested in the paper. All the good dispatch are invoiced correctly. යවපු හැම බඩුවක්ම invoice කරලාද කියලා බලන්න. invoice කරලාද විතරක් නෙවෙයි invoice කරපු amount එක හරියද කියලා බලන එකත් control objective. I hope that the question is clear. So if the question is clear now, but now you have to try the elimination theory. What is elimination theory? Which of the above control of the sales system of IT is it ensure that all the good dispatch are invoiced correctly? So now we will see particular internal controls. Number one, sales invoices are sequentially numbered. Yes, it is a very good internal control. Sales invoices are sequentially numbered, but this sales, the sequence order of the sales invoices, does it ensure that all the good dispatch are invoiced? මේ sequence order කියලා කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? invoice එකේ 1 2 3 4 5 කියන print කරලා දෙනවා. අතින් ලියන්න බෑ. සමහර අපි boutique centers වලට ගියාම bill පොත අරන් bill එකේ number එක අතින් ලියනවා. එහෙම බෑ. number එක print කරලා තියෙනවා. Right? So this is called sequence order. So do you feel that this is common sense? By numbering an invoice, does it ensure that all the goods sent by the company premises are invoiced? No. So therefore, answer 1. Elimination theory, not the identifying the correct answer. Then sales invoices are matched to custom orders. Sales invoices are matched to custom orders. Sales invoice is matching to the customer PO. You see, sale invoice is matching to the PO. ඒක මොකද්ද මේ කියන්නේ? ඒක තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ සමහර අයට. That is not sure. Right? Third one, weekly review of an open custom order file. What is that? Some of you may be first time listening to this. Weekly review of an open custom order file. දැන් සමහර අයට මේක තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. හරිද? මේක තේරෙන්නේ. Right? Not sure. Number 3. Don't know. Don't know. This is a very difficult question, right? And number 4, good dispatch notes are matched to the sales invoices. Good dispatch notes are matched to the sales invoices. Good dispatch notes are matched to the sale invoices. Objective is achieved. Whether all the good dispatch are invoiced correctly, the main control is GDN and invoices should be checked and should be matched. Perfectly correct. So therefore, number 4 is correct. Now the question is, now you look at the answers. Part A say 1 and 2, 1 comes mean can't come. Part B say 1 and 4, 1 comes mean you can't take. Part C say 2 and 3, 2 and 3. Part D say 3 and 4. Now, definitely you have 2 answers. Part C or part D. That means 2 and 3 or 3 and 4. So now you have to take a call on what is the best appropriate procedure from here. Right? So accordingly, the sales invoices are matched to customer orders. Sale invoices are matching to customer order and reviewing weekly review of an open customer order file. So weekly review of an open customer order file is the answer, because sometimes you may not know this one. So you can review the pending orders, right? Sometimes what happens there, even though if you have dispatched the good, still it has open as an order. Then somebody reviewing the open orders and see, oh, there are so many orders not yet closed. Why? Sometimes we have sent the goods, but invoice have not been raised. You see, it's indirect control. It's not a direct control. It's indirect control. Right? You see, there are 10 items open in the order file, order folder. Can't be unbelievable. But to see, five items have been dispatched, but not invoiced. That could be captured. But by reviewing the invoice into the purchase orders, that also can be done, but with compared to these two, most appropriate control will be the most practically applied procedure will be the weekly review of an open customer order file, right? So this is something bit difficult question for you. I know, that is why I took little longer time. This is not easy. So in this type of moments will come now, what to select 2 and 3. Some of the students have selected number 2, some they select. Anyway, almost all the students, I believe, they have decided answer number 4 is correct. They have decided answer number 1 is wrong. So therefore, one of them you have to select in a judgmentally, depending on your practical understanding by reading the study text. So sometimes you know this internal control chapter of this internal control practical application. The study text is very large table. It's the chapter number 3. It's very difficult to remember. So remembering or memorizing in the internal control will not serve your purpose. So what you need to do is you watch the webinar that I have done for this internal control practical application. Try to understand in an overall way, and then try to have a small short note for the entire each process covering the entire flow. So and practice more and more question to familiarize the type of question that could come at your examination. So therefore the answer is answer D, 3 and 4. This answer is D, 3 and 4. Weekly review of an open order customer file and the good dispatch note are matched to the sales invoice. Right. So we'll go to the next question. 1.2, this is a very simple question. Which of the following concept means that the directors of a company are responsible for the management of shareholders' property? So this is basically from your chapter number 1, Introduction to External Auditing. It's a very basic question. So this is a very basic and a very theoretical question. Which of the following concept mean that the directors of a company are responsible for the management of shareholders' property? The definition which we are learning from your KE4 or the BL5 subject, and even at CL1 at the first chapter you just read this one. Normally in the chapter number 1 we can't see the question, but in this paper there is a small theory question. This is the bonus question. So which of the following concept mean that the directors of a company are responsible for the management of shareholders' property? There are 4 definitions: accountability, stewardship, agency and leadership. So you know accountability mean what? You are accountable for something, or you are accountable for your activity. It is not that the management of shareholders' property. So stewardship, that is the answer. Stewardship is you are looking after someone else's property. And agency, so as agency mean it's a people employed or used for some other purpose, and the leadership is not coming here. So therefore answer B, stewardship. That is a very simple question and also easy one, nothing to remember, nothing to practically applied or anything. So it's basically our very basic theory, very basic concept of advanced audit and assurance. Right, then 1.3. Now one more thing I want to tell you all. So when these auditing papers, expect something which you have you have around 5 to 10 marks at the exam, which you have never seen in your study text, which you have never studied anywhere, and something completely new, vocabulary of new words will come. That is the nature of this subject, because this is something which cannot cover, this auditing practices cannot cover through the study text. It's very large area. So therefore there will be 5 to 10 marks. But don't get scared, because from your overall understanding you can write those questions. I will show you. So right, 1.3, you are the audit supervisor of the audit of Visco Lanka PLC. මොකක්ද දැන් highlighter ළඟ තියාගෙන මොකක්ද කරන්නේ? PLC කියන එක highlight කරන්න ඕන. For the year ended 30th September 2020, you have instructed your audit team to use computer assisted audit technique when performing audit procedures over sales and trade receivables. Which of the following procedure can be performed using the audit software? So now before discussing the question, let me to just recap your theory knowledge on the CAATs under the digitalization chapter. So this is coming with the digitalization, auditing in a digital environment chapter. So there basically we have, right, computer assisted audit techniques, we know CAAT. So there are 2 types of one. I hope that you can remember CAAT under digital auditing chapter. So audit software and test data. I hope that you can remember. So these 2, audit software will be generalized or customized. Right? So this is the computer assisted audit technique. එක පරිගණක ආධාරිත විගණන ශිල්ප ක්‍රමය කම්පියුටරෙන් ඔඩිට් කරන්න බෑ. කම්පියුටරේ පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් ඔඩිට් කරන්න. ඒක තමයි මේ කියන්නේ. Computer assisted audit techniques, how the computer can be used, how the technology or a computer can be used in auditing of finance statement in the today's context. Future will change, but today's context. So audit software and test data. So audit software mean when the audit is being conducted, the audit firm use their own software. That software may be either generalized software like ACL or some other software which is freely available, which is available to be used by all the audit firm in this world, and customized audit software. Each audit firm has their own software developed by their technical team, by the global all the global firms with their global support. Those softwares are being used, right? Test data means it's something completely different. How the technology is used in while you are conducting the audit of financial statement, what happens, even the mock examination paper discussion, I discuss in detail this one. So test data mean you test the testing of data. That means you use some of the data to test the company system. You enter some of the information to the company system and you look at the output, you compare the input and output and see whether it is correctly processed. You put a wrong information into the system and see whether the wrong output comes. When you put the wrong information, can't come the correct output. The testing of data of the client system is called test of data. It is nothing to talk about the audit software. This is testing of data. Mean it is you are testing the client information system by inputting some of the pre-planned information and after predicting what would be the outcome. Right. So if you know this theory, question is nothing. Which of the following procedure can be performed using audit software? Now it is asked audit software. So therefore the answers given as a testing of data should be eliminated. Part A, extracting a sample of trade receivable balances for circularization at the year end. Extracting a sample of trade debtors. Then debtors line na lakshayak vidara oken sa okkotom yawanda bෑනේ ලියුම්. the post office එකක් දාගන්න ඔය audit firm එකදලේ. right. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා දැන් මේකේ sample එකක් select කරන්න බෑ. දැන් මට හිතන debtors ලා ගන්න බෑනේ. I can't take the way I want. No, there is a way of taking. But when you have 100,000 debtors, manually you can select also. So there should be a way of getting a sample, there should be a basis for sampling. So whether sampling is going to be done through the audit software. Can be or cannot be, you have to think. Part B, inputting dummy sales invoice into the VL system and see whether the sale process is correctly. Obviously that answer is wrong. A, B, C, D. B answer wrong. Why? This is purely test data, asking audit software. Then answer C, testing data access control to an trade receivable system to ensure there is adequate segregation of duties. Testing data access control to the trade receivable system to ensure there is adequate segregation of duties. This is a TOC. This is a test data. This is a TOC, test of control. So you are testing your control. Testing data access controls. Testing data access control is a test of control. Testing of a control called test of control. So therefore that is not as audit software usage. And part D, entering a sample of sale orders above customer's credit limit in VL sales system to check if the system rejects the orders above the approved credit limits. Again, it is a test data. Now if you know the difference between the audit software and the test data, this answer is nothing. So therefore, you know the elimination theory, part D, C, B are wrong. So therefore, answer A should be the correct answer. Extracting a sample of trade receivable balance for circularization at the year end, what the audit firms they are doing, they are putting their population into the audit software and they put the benchmark or a rules for selection. Put the rule for selection, audit software will process and will give you a proper sample looking at all these benchmarks, criterias. That is happening in audit firms, right? So therefore, 1.3 answer A. So this is where I want to highlight in a paper like Advanced Audit and Assurance. You see, you know the theory and you have learned the theory audit software and test data. But let's say you are memorizing the audit, what is audit? කටපාඩම් කරනවා කියලා හිතන්න audit software එකක් කියන්නේ මේක test data කියන්නේ මේක කටපාඩම් කරලා යනවා. මේක ලියන්න පුළුවන්ද? Please understand, I have been telling you for several time now in this through this year webinar series. Please understand this concept. The students who have been failing this subject, unless you understand this, the concern that I am telling, again your answer is 40 marks or 45 marks, right? So auditing is not another theoretical subject. It is not something which is which is not applicable in this world. So it is applicable some practical scenarios. So by knowing this theory is not enough. Now you see how these two situations are going to be applied in a practical scenarios are going to be tested. So in that case, what you should learn, rather memorizing this theory, rather memorizing the theory and coming to the paper or trying to understand the practical scenario. Learn this concept with practical example, you will never forget. කියන්නේ theory එක කටපාඩම් කරලා ඒකට ගැලපෙන උදාහරණයක් මතක තියාගෙන තේරුම් ගන්න උත්සාහ කරනවට වඩා මේ concept එක අමතක කරලා concept එකේ meaning එක example එකකින් තේරුම් අරන් ඊට පස්සේ ගිහලා definition එක බලන්න. That will help you to address any of the questions, right? Then the correct answer A. Right, I am coming to the question number 1.4. You are the engagement manager of the initial audit engagement as defined in SLAUS 510 initial audit engagement. Opening balances. The current year end is 30th September 2020. So another important thing, when there is a financial period is given, please highlight that. The period date ending is very important critical information in your practical application questions. Alright. The financial statement for the prior year were audited by another auditor. The audit client has an investment property measured at fair value. In the prior year, the fair value was estimated using an income-based valuation methodology. However, in the current year, the method was changed to a cost-based valuation methodology. So it's a fair value to cost-based valuation method. It's a change. In the above scenario, above situation, which of the following procedure are you least likely to perform in the current year audit? දැන් මේ වචනේ දැක්කහම මෙන්න මෙහෙම රවුම් කරන්න ඕනේ. ඇයි සමහරලාට අපෙන් අහන්නේ most likely. The question is least likely. So this is the techniques that the examiner used to confuse us. So least likely. So what's happened there? So the question is like unlikely. It's not least likely, mean unlikely. වැදගත් භාවයෙන් අඩුම ඒ කියන්නේ නොකරන මට්ටමේ තියෙන උත්තරය අහන්න. So in the above situation, which of the following procedure, right? So least likely to perform in the current year audit. Reviewing the predecessor auditors' working papers on how the appropriateness of the valuation method was evaluated in the previous year. Obtaining the valuation report of the current year and the testing the appropriateness of valuation method used. Then considering the use of an expert to assist the auditor in determining the appropriateness of the change of the valuation method, re-performing the work relevant to estimating the fair value in the prior year and the reporting its on reasonableness of the current year audit opinion for 2 marks, right? So what do you think on the So this is a long question, it's a long case question, but answer is very simple. දැන් අපෙන් අහන්නේ අපි මේ තියෙන වැඩවලින් මේකෙන් තුනක් අපි කරන්න පුළුවන් දේවල් එකක් තියෙනවා මේක අපි කරන්න බැරි වැඩක් නැත්නම් නොකළ යුතු වැඩක්, something which we should not do. So that is the answer expected by the examiner, right? So reviewing the predecessor auditors' working papers on how the appropriateness of the valuation method was evaluated. So what is the problem here? The last year the investment property has been measured at fair value and last year audited by another auditor. So this year you have undertaken the audit, but the investment property is one of the key important thing for the auditor because fair valuation is involved in terms of LKS 40. So therefore, when you are conducting the audit of the current year, what you need to look at in the previous year working papers or previous year balances or previous year audit, that is the question. So in such scenario, the first one, reviewing the predecessor auditors' working papers on how the appropriateness of the valuation method was evaluated in the previous year. That is possible in the standard, it's given. If you want to get understanding of the previous year audit or how the audit was conducted or a significant matters or a significant risk addressed during the previous year audit, you can always get an appointment from the previous year auditor and go and check the other working paper file. And then you will get a more understanding, more knowledge. So that is there in the auditing standard which can be done. Number 2, so therefore number 1 part A is possible. Then obtaining the valuation report of the current year and testing the appropriateness of the valuation method used. Of course, you have to obtain the current year valuation report and then you have to check the appropriateness of that. That is correct. C. Considering the use of an expert to assist the auditor in determining the appropriateness of the change in the valuation method. Of course, yes. Why? You know, you are not a property valuer, you are a chartered accountant, you don't know. Now somebody come and say there is a land in Torrington, Colombo 7, purchase value is 50 million. The 50 million value කරන්න කොහොමද කියලා. We are not valuers. For that there are professional valuers. You can get always the valuer support in terms of deciding the value which should be reported in the finance statement at fair value. So therefore answer C also correct. ඉතින් එහෙමනම් මේ තුනම හරිනම් ඉතුරු උත්තරේ උඩ බලාගෙන ලියන්න පුළුවන්. ටික් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right. Reperforming the work relevant to estimating the fair value in the prior year and reporting on its reasonables in the current year audit opinion. So it is not and dealing with us because previous year audit was done by another chartered accountant practicing chartered accountant using the Sri Lanka auditing standards, and he has given audit report. You cannot challenge it. You cannot challenge the last year reasonableness of the fair valuation of the last year because that is relevant to the last year, right? So you can challenge, but chances are least likely, unlikely, right? So therefore, generally not. So you don't have any responsibility to look at that. You look at the current year gain and the current year closing balance. Because you are verifying if it is an investment property, you know, if the investment property is account balances, where you are going to look at the assertion mainly existence and valuation. So existence and valuation mainly you are looking at the 31st March or 30th September financial year ended date. So therefore, it's not that correct or it's not appropriate or it's not required for you to go back and check the previous year. Or a previous year how that audit was done and with the reasonableness and reporting in the current year the last year fair value gain is wrong is not likely to happen in this audit when we are auditing the financial statement according to the guideline given in the Sri Lanka auditing standards. Right, so therefore answer D, this is from audit evidence. So if I summarize you, I couldn't tell you this particular section it was tested. The first question came from the internal control, a practical application chapter number 3, and second question again the part A internal control section, introduction to external auditing chapter number 1, and 1.3 basically digital auditing. So that is the digital auditing coming under the section D. Then this is initial audit engagement section C, audit evidence, and now we are coming to 1.5. In today's fast moving digital environment, it is important that the organization have a place sufficient control to mitigate the risks related to the cyber attacks. So again this cyber attack word එක දැකපු ගමන් දන්නවා මේක digital auditing වලින් අහන්නේ කියලා. Right. Consider the following controls: installing antivirus and malware protection software, restricting the use of the portable storage devices in the company's computers, setting staff access to system to the minimum level to undertake their roles, raising awareness of staff to be wary of unusual or unsolicited emails. Which of the above controls would be best to prevent malicious leaking of data by employees? You know, now most of the companies are the data is one of the important aspects. Now before that I want to tell you one thing, that when I speak to some of the students, they say digital auditing is the so difficult part in auditing syllabus. We will never understand anything. So how can I understand? I can't get any single marks on that. But according to me, if somebody come and ask from me what is the easiest chapter in your CL1 syllabus, I would say 10 marks, 10% weightage given digital auditing. Very simple, only 6-7 pages study text, and you can just read that and you can just Google robotic process automation, what it is, how it is, so just read and Google on that. There are enough YouTube videos for you to just to know blockchain and all that. So one of the easiest part. Don't miss there for that. Don't get scared for that section. It is your future. So try to get an interest to the digital auditing and try to score in the 10 marks at the examination, right? So the question is from that particular chapter, which of the above controls would be best to prevent malicious leaking of data by employees? The samahara companies are data කියලා කියන්නේ මාර asset එකක්. දැන් උදාහරණයකට Google ගත්තොත් Google data, Facebook data, WhatsApp data. So data are very important. If you look at the Food City, data, Dialog, Mobitel, SLT Mobitel now, right? They have, their data is very important. But here the question is, which of the above control would be best to prevent malicious leaking by data? ඒ කියන්නේ අපි data leak එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් harm කරන්න කාට හරි, intended to harm. So then in such scenarios, what would be the correct controls only? The question, it is being tested. So number 1, installing antivirus and malware protection software. So installing antivirus and malware protection software is one of the good control mechanism to address the cyber attack or a cyber risk, but it is not a good control, or it is not a nothing to talk about preventing leakage of information from the company. It is a good cyber control, cyber security mitigating control, but the question is something else. But the question is, so it's preventing leakage of information by the employee. So therefore number one is not going to be the correct answer. Then restricting the use of portable storage devices in the company's computers. Of course, yes, your employees are not allowed to use your pen drives in your computers, portable storage devices in the computer. So what then you can easily take out those information. Now if you look at the global firms as of now, you may be aware, your audit trainees, so you can't use your pen drives into certain audit firms, may not, I don't know, but your pen drives cannot be used. So the firm will give you a pen drive if necessary, and you can't use the external devices into external softwares into a computer. All are restricted because leakage of information, right? So therefore number 2 is correct. Number 3 is setting staff access to system to minimum level to undertake their roles. Setting staff access to system to the minimum level to undertake their roles. Setting staff access system. So that means staff access system means it's a control given to the employees. Setting staff access to system to the minimum level to undertake their roles, right? Minimum access only given. So that means the chances of getting the information. Now let's say I will tell you one good example. If you are in a bank, so sometime your friend is in Anuradhapura, calls and tell, can you check my, let's say you are in Pan Asia Bank, your friend is in Anuradhapura and calls and tell you, so I have a Pan Asia account in Anuradhapura, can you check and let me know what is the account balances of my bank account. Let's say you are in Talavathukutta branch or a Maharagama branch, so you are typing that number and you have the access to check that account balances is Anuradhapura account, Anuradhapura branch, right? If it is allowed, it is a leakage of information for a different purpose, right? So that when the access is limited to Anuradhapura branch, you can access only as a being executive, you can access only within your branch. If you want to go to another branch access, so it has to be an assistant manager level or a manager level access is needed. Of course, that is a control of preventing leakage of information. So therefore, the answer C also correct. D. Raising awareness of staff to be wary of unusual or unsolicited emails, right? With us ගොඩාක් එනවා unusual emails අපිටත් එනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ awareness එකක්. මේකට අපි කියනවා මේ unusual emails එනවා, මේවා බලන්න එපා, මේවා click කරන්න එපා, මේවා enter කරන්න එපා, data මේවා forward කරන්න එපා. We tell that. It is a good internal control of a company, making awareness of the people. But only thing is, look at the question, whether will that ensure the preventing the leakage of information? No, of course nothing to talk on that. So therefore, this is not relevant to the given question. So therefore, you can select the answer B and C is the correct answers. So B and C B and C mean 2 and 3, sorry, not A, B, C, they are 2 and 3. So the 2 and 3 mean the answer, correct answer is 2 and 3 is coming here, right. So this is the answer, answer B. Right, I am going to the next question. So this is this is a very fantastic question. There were a lot of comments after the examination. I saw a lot of comment from the students on this question. What is correct? අපේ ළමයි තාම තේරුම් ගන්න නැති කාරණයක් තියෙනවා. Always when there is a question in like a CL1 or a corporate level or a strategic level, if it is a straightforward answer, it will be only 1 or 2 question. If there is a 10 question, all others will be something to that all 4 answers are not correct. There are certain scenarios, all 4 are not correct. Then you are thinking what is correct? තේරුම් ගන්නවා මම කියන එක. හරිද? උත්තර 4ම වැරදි. දැන් ඔයා දන්නවා හරි උත්තරේ මොකක්ද කියලා. දැන් ඔයා හරි උත්තරේ හොයනවා මේකේ නෑ. මෙන්න මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ඔයා දන්නවා හරි උත්තරේ මේක. හැබැයි ඒ උත්තරේ මෙතන නෑ. දැන් මොකද්ද කරන්නේ? Now you have to evaluate the situation and identify the best suitable or best appropriate answer. Most of the students, believe me, you are going wrong because you know the answer. Answer is not there in the answer given answers. So therefore you are arguing with the paper and the CS Sri Lanka or the examiner. So this question is wrong. But still remember that there will be scenarios. This is examination. There will be scenarios. Rather giving a correct answer. If the examiner gives you the correct answer, then sometimes you know the answer. But when you go to the one day after you becoming a chartered accountant, there will be different scenarios will come. There will not be a correct answer, but you have to identify an answer from a most appropriate answer for a given scenario. So that application is tested here. C Travels PLC highlight. PLC owns and operates a luxury boats and tours at Marissa Beach. The audit testing carried out indicated an impairment loss of the luxury boats and equipment that exceeded the overall materiality level determined for the audit. So what's happened here? Material level, there is a issue. There is a issue on the impairment. So that issue is exceeding the overall material level. Right. The analysis shows that there is a long-term reduction in high-end tourism revenue due to the current economic downturn. The management is not in agreement to recognize an allowance for impairment in the finance statement for the year ended 30th September 2020. Year ended is also important. So there is an impairment provision which has to be recorded as per LKS 36 impairment of asset, because current pandemic situations, future cash recoverable value of such assets may be lesser than the carrying value. It's a impairment as per LKS 36. So that should be recognized, but the management say we can't recognize. The management say can't recognize, we say should recognize. There is a disagreement with the management. Obviously this becomes a misstatement then. Right? Since it is above material level, this become a material misstatement. Since it's become a above material level, it's become a material misstatement. Now you know the theory. If it is a material misstatement, what should be done? If it is a material misstatement, you know the basic theory in audit reporting. There are certain circumstances in audit reporting. Audit reporting, right? So there can be situation, modified opinion, additional paragraph. Additional paragraph, there are 2, emphasis of matter and other matter, right? Modified opinion, there are 2 circumstances. One is misstatement, Other one is scope limitation. Right. The misstatement, there are two circumstances, material and purposive. So scope limitation, there are two circumstances, material and purposive. Right. If it is material, you know, we are giving a qualified opinion. Material and purposive, we are giving an adverse opinion. If it is material, we are giving qualified opinion, and material and purposive, we are giving disclaimer of opinion. I just reminded you the theory. You know better than me now, audit reporting, right? So in this diagram, looking at this diagram, we look at the question at the examination paper. If there are audit reporting question, please just draw this one. උත්තරේ හරියටම දැනගත්තත් කමක් නැහැ. මේ diagram එක විතර අපි audit reporting ප්‍රශ්න කරද්දී මේ diagram එක assurance engagement කරද්දී ඒ diagram එක ඇඳලා තමයි උත්තරේ හොයන්න උතර වරදින්නේ නැහැ. As the audit manager in the above scenario, which of the following is most likely? Most likely is not the perfect answer is requested. It's not the perfect answer. Most likely. Action you would take when drafting the audit report. The matter would be disclosed as a key audit matter and no further action would be taken when drafting the audit report. This matter would be a key audit matter. Now, what is key audit matter? It's a key audit matter mean it's a positive conclusion. When you are conducting the audit of PLC, the මං කියන්නේ PLC කියන නම highlight කරන්න කියලා මෙන්න මේකට තමයි. ඇයි ඒ? දැන් key audit matters කියන එක මේ එන්නේ PLC එකට විතරනේ. එබනම් මෙතන PLC එකක් තියෙන්නේ. So now key audit matters mean in the auditor's judgment there are three things auditors look at. Significant risk, significant management judgment and significant events that the auditor noted during the audit. If the auditor believes that should be brought to the attention of the shareholders to say that there is a significant matter we address during the audit, we perform these procedures and we are satisfied stating that there are no material misstatement on this particular section. It is a positive conclusion towards to the shareholder in terms of their decision making. That is a key audit matter. So the matter would be disclosed as a key audit matter and no further action would be taken when drafting the audit report. Of course, this is a significant issue, this impairment is a significant risk because management judgments are involved. Under the number 2, this could become a key audit matter. But the question here is, second part, this matter would be disclosed as a key audit matter and no further action would be taken when drafting the audit report. Is that correct? No further action. Obviously, this is a misstatement. This is a material misstatement. If it is a material misstatement, and if it is material, this should be a qualified opinion. The qualified opinion means it is a modification to the audit report. So, if it is a modification to the audit report, if something which is subject to qualified will not come as a CAM. That you know the theory. Right. So, therefore, the matter would be disclosed as a key audit matter, that is correct, but no further action would be taken when drafting the audit report. Make a final report, audit report draft karne wala. So drafting the audit report, no further action mean its answer is wrong. You can't say no further action because you can't say no further action because it is a material misstatement. If it is a material misstatement, you have to qualify the audit report or adverse report depending on the purpose. So therefore, the answer A is wrong. Right. B, the matter would be a key audit matter and an emphasis of matter paragraph will be included in the audit report. Yes, of course, this could be a CAM, but is it emphasis of matter? You learn in the theory that to become an emphasis of matter, there are two conditions to be satisfied. What is that? Which is something fundamental to the user's understanding and something which is disclosed in the financial statement. Fundamental to the users and something disclosed in the financial statement. So, in such circumstances, now this impairment, is it a fundamental matter? So, no, the impairment, understatement, overstatement, non-disclosure, depreciation calculation error, those are not fundamental. Fundamental means something completely affecting to the entire financial statement, which is one of the key information that the shareholder is looking at. So therefore, this is not fundamental, Therefore, CAM is out here. The matter would be a key audit matter, yes. An emphasis of matter paragraph will be included in the audit report. So the answer is wrong. Answer B wrong. But C, the matter is not a key audit matter. However, an emphasis of matter paragraph will be included. So again, answer C is wrong because emphasis of matter is not coming. Now, you know answer A, B, C wrong. Now D. The matter is a key audit matter. Further, the audit opinion will be qualified on the basis of not recording an impairment loss. Mara Prashne. The matter is a key audit matter. Further, the audit opinion will be qualified on the basis of not recording an impairment loss. එතකොට අපි දැන් කල්පනා කරනවා අපි ඉගෙන ගන්නකොට ස්ටඩි පැක් එකේ තියෙනවා එක තැනක කියලා CAM audit qualification එකට matter එකක් subject වෙන matter එකක් CAM එකේ එන්න බෑ කියලා positively තියෙනවා. If you look at the standard SLA US 705, it's very clearly mentioned. Key audit matters, something will not be reported as a key audit matter if it is subject to audit qualification, modification. So therefore, these both won't come. Now, but then you are going to the part A and D, you are confusing. You know the correct answer, both cannot come. But part A and D is not having the correct answer. Perfect answer is not there. Now you have to select the best answer, not the correct 100% correct answer, best answer. Part A and D. So this is not sure. Right, not sure. So now you are in between these two. So what you need to look at? Part A and D, right. Part A, the matter would be disclosed as a key audit matter and no further action would be taken when drafting the audit report. Of course, this is obviously not perfectly correct because you know obviously there is a material misstatement, this will be a qualification, right. Then part D, the matter is a key audit matter, further the audit opinion will be qualified on the basis of not recording an impairment. The matter is a key audit matter. Is that correct or wrong? දැන් හිතනවා මම කියන විදිහට මේක key audit matter එකක්ද නැද්ද? This is a key audit matter. Now this is a key audit matter. Further, the audit opinion will be qualified on the basis of not recording an impairment. Is that correct or wrong? It is also correct. So this is also key audit matter and also audit opinion will be qualified. Both are correct. But when there is a situation, both are coming, in the audit report we put only one. But the question again read, ask the audit manager in the above scenario which of the following is the most likely action you would take when the drafting the audit report. So you will take it as a CAM as well as you will take it as the matter to be qualified. Then you decide. Both cannot come. So therefore you cut the key audit matter section. So that will be the perfect answer. The perfect answer is not given by the examiner, but most likely, the most likely action what you would take is you will take it as a CAM as well as in the draft report you will take it to the audit qualification and then you will cut the key audit matter section. Right. So therefore, if you look at the part A and D අතර ගත්තොත් මොකද the most appropriate answer? What is the most appropriate answer? Would be answer D. Right. Answer D. This is coming from audit reporting section. Right. Then we are coming to the 1.7. So your client uses a chatbot on its website. I told you there when you are attending the questions of your examination, there will be certain new vocabulary, new words comes in. Don't get scared for those new words. Sometime in the examination, if the new word is given, description also given on that new word. So therefore, don't get scared for that. If the new word is there, mean description also there. Now chatbot, sometime it is not covered in anywhere in the auditing subject, but I am sure that this is covered in the digitalization subject in BL8. But even if it is not covered, it is not really required to know this word, but the concept. But the meaning or what is the importance in terms of auditing side only you have to look at. Your client uses chatbox on its website. A chatbot is a computer program that has a conversation in English, Sinhala, Tamil with an online customer to identify their requirements and then locates the specific product for the for that customer. This creates significant customer attraction as online customers feel they are talking with a human being. This is a software conversion software. Conversations are converted into different language, something like that, let's say. Chatbot is an example of course these are not there in the books or study text. So you need to understand the concept, what is meant by artificial intelligence, what is meant by robotic process automation, what is meant by artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, blockchain, these three concepts. Robotic process automation, blockchain, right, artificial intelligence. So these three, the meaning if you have in your mind, you can answer this question. Robotic process automation being used in business to increase business performance. Now B, an IT general control implemented to verify whether the online customer is a human being. The use of big data where information about customers is analyzed by asking them questions. Artificial intelligence being used by the client to enhance their customer experience. What is the answer? If you look at the robotic process automation, it's like robotics technology. The robotics technology is used for your enhancement to your business activities or efficiency. So robotic process automation is used, as well as the auditors also now using the robotic technology in performing the audit. So chatbot is an application, it's a software, it's an application, program. So this program application, whether it's a robotic process automation or not, is a questionable. So you can't answer this whether is not sure. So you are not sure with that. An IT general control implemented to verify whether the online customer is a human being. This is not a control, this is a supportive activity. When you read this description, you can understand this is not a control. So therefore this part B definitely wrong. Okay. Then the use of big data where the information about customers is analyzed by that asking them question. No, this is not a big data analytics, this is something just a simple application in terms of conversations, conversion into the single English and Tamil or a different language. So therefore answer C also wrong. And the next one, artificial intelligence, that is intelligence being used by the client to enhance the customer experience. Yes. So this make it AI. So now your question is, you can't write two answers, you have to write only two answers, whether it's a robotic process automation or artificial intelligence. So if you know this all three concepts properly, you will understand this is artificial intelligence. This is a artificial intelligence which is used for a computer application with online customers. So this is being used. This is rather robo comes and does the work. This is something a technology does the work. So therefore this is artificial intelligence coming under the artificial intelligence being used by the client to enhance the customer experience. So this is the answer D. So this is coming again from digitalization chapter, but of course this type of informations are not there in the study text, but you are supposed to know certain level beyond the study text what is really meant by this concept. Right, so I am coming to the next question, 1.8. Again you see this is a half of the paper, half of that paper. There are two questions only this paper. So this is the issue in the auditing question. It's very long and it takes a lot of time in reading. Your client JB Private Limited, highlight that, Private Limited, is the holding company of three companies in the telecommunication, healthcare and hotel industry. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the hotel business was very badly affected. However, the management has concluded that the going concern basis is still appropriate as the holding company will financially support the hotel subsidiary. You have obtained sufficient audit comfort over the financial strength of the holding company. The hotel business accounts for 33% of the asset profit and the cash flows of the JB group. In the above scenario, you are most likely to, what is going to happen to the audit report? So there are many students who are confused. There are many students who are confused with this going concern reporting. So let me to take 2 to 3 minutes and re-explain, because I discussed this going concern with you in one of the webinar in CL1 as well as the BL5 webinar is available in the CS Sri Lanka YouTube channel or the website. You can watch that. but if you don't have time to watch that webinar now again, so I will let me to explain that concept. Right, and also remember that the going concern is a very highly testable. It's a highly testable area in your syllabus. So going concern reporting, there are 4 scenarios. Right. So in this 4 scenario, number 1, going concern assumption is appropriate. So that means company will be continue for the business more than 12 months. If the going concern assumption is appropriate, but material uncertainties are disclosed, there are some material uncertainties, all those are disclosed by the management. Going concern assumption appropriate, but material uncertainties also there, and those also have been adequately disclosed in the financial statement. Then unmodified report with an additional paragraph, right? So if the going concern assumption is appropriate but material uncertainties are disclosed, then you are not changing your audit report, but you are adding an additional paragraph after the basis for the opinion, stating that material uncertainties relation to going concern. You are like emphasis of matter, it is not an emphasis of matter, but the same content, but the heading is different. The second scenario, going concern assumption is appropriate. So that means it's okay, the company can go for a business, continue in the business for more than 12 months, but material uncertainty is not disclosed. If there are situations where material uncertainties are not adequately disclosed, of course that becomes a under misstatement. So therefore opinion will be qualified or adverse depending on the pervasiveness and the materiality. Number 3, going concern assumption is not appropriate at all. Like a perpetual treasury is limited, the perpetual treasury management say the company will continue for a more than foreseeable future, more than 12 months or a 5 years, 10 years, I will continue, I will give the budget, finance statement, everything, cash flow. But of course the auditor conclude that even though they are telling central bank license has been cancelled, so therefore you will never get the central bank license, so you can't continue in this business in a bond business, or let's say the primary dealing business. So therefore going concern assumption is not appropriate or inappropriate such circumstances if the management is not changing the financial statements finance statement according to the going concern, so it will be adverse report. It will be adverse report. So fourth circumstances, management does not agree to extend its assessment. So that means the management has done a going concern assessment for a 6 month. We go and tell no, according to the auditing standard, accounting standard, at least your assessment should cover minimum 12 months or beyond that, right? So in such circumstances, we tell management, okay, look here, you have prepared a cash flow for 6 months, you re-prepare this cash flow for more than 12 months, 2 years, 3 years. Management say, no, I can't do that. If the management say, I can't do that, so of course it is audit opinion is going to be qualified or disclaimer depending on the situation, right. You see, highly examinable. Most of the exam papers, pilot paper, mock paper, December online, even February exam which is going to come in the next week, this will be there. But this is highly testable. One of the fundamental of every auditor look at in these days when auditing finance statement with this given COVID-19 pandemic. So you need to have a thorough understanding all four situation, right. So how the audit opinion should come. If you know this diagram, when you see a going concern question at the examination, please draw this diagram and decide the correct answer accordingly. So here the problem is your client JB Private Limited is the holding company of 3 companies in the telecommunication, healthcare and hotel industry. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the hotel business was very badly affected. However, the management has concluded that the going concern base is still appropriate as the holding company will financially support. So going concern assumption is appropriate. You have obtained sufficient audit comfort over the financial strength. So you are happy with the audit, you have got the evidences on that as well. The hotel business account 33%, right. So the first one, issue an unmodified audit report for the group as discloses. Issue an unmodified audit report for the group as disclosures appearing in the finance statements are adequate for users to understand the current financial condition of the group and its subsidiaries. Answer B, qualify the audit opinion as tourism is so badly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, stating that the going concern basis is no longer appropriate for any hotel business in Sri Lanka. Include a key audit matter in the audit report as the hotel business accounts for 33% of the asset, profit and cash flows of the group, and highlight the material uncertainty by including an emphasis of matter paragraph. Highlight the material uncertainty that exists for the hotel business by including an emphasis of matter paragraph in the audit report for the group, and further disclosures in the hotel note is required. So here the base question is, so JB Private Limited. So JB has 3 companies, A, B, C, C under hotel. So this represents 33%. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so this company is suffering financially. So therefore, the audit report of JB, what should be mentioned with regard to C or with regard to C, right. So of course, you know, when there is a group company, always the parent company will support to the group subsidiary companies. In such circumstances, the financial support is there. That is a mitigating factor in evaluating the going concern assumption. That is a mitigating factor, right. So in such circumstances, whether the going concern assumption is inappropriate, no, going concern assumption is appropriate, because hotel industry, even though this is temporarily locked down, the tourist people are not coming. So with this vaccine and all, nobody can say for the entire lifetime another 100 years tourists are not going to come. So it will happen. So therefore you cannot say this company will never be able to continue for a foreseeable future. Being another subsidiary of a group company, of course they will support. So therefore going concern assumption is appropriate. But there are some material uncertainties which has to be communicated to the shareholders appropriately. In such circumstances, those disclosures should be reported in the financial statement, and those information must be highlighted by the auditor as an additional paragraph to the audit report. So therefore, this will be the answer for this question. Now we will see part A. Issue an unmodified audit report for the group as disclosure appearing in the finance statements are adequate for users to understand the current financial condition of the group and its subsidiaries. Issue an unmodified audit report, correct, for the group as disclosure appearing in the finance statement are adequate of users. That is correct. Unmodified audit report is given and those things are disclosed in the finance statement. That is correct. Let us say whether it is mostly correct. So now here answer A is correct, right. Qualify the audit opinion as tourism is so badly affected by COVID-19 pandemic, stating that the going concern basis is no longer appropriate. So then, so it's saying qualify the audit report stating that tourism is so badly affected and the going concern is not appropriate. So it will not be the case. Financial support is there. So you are a common sense person. Hotel industry is not going to be collapsed, temporarily collapsed, but not going to be forever. So therefore answer B is wrong. C. Include the key audit matter. Then key audit matter දකපු ගමම ගිහලා company එකේ නම highlight කරලා එන්න කිව්වේ ඒකයි. මොකද්ද company නම? JB Private Limited. JB Private Limited is the holding company for 3 companies in the telecommunication, healthcare and hotel industry. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, hotel business. So that's a private limited, right? So even if it is a private limited, whether the key audit matters are applicable, that itself wrong. Now that is a one way of looking at, but something else also, some other ways also you can look at this. Include a key audit matter in the audit report as the hotel business accounts for 33% of the asset, profit and cash flow to the group, and highlight the material uncertainty by including an emphasis of matter paragraph. You know, there are 2-3 issues here. Something can be CAM, something can be emphasis of matter. If both comes, you are not putting a 2 points. What the theory? You are highlighting, you put as a CAM and you highlight and you give the more prominence to that fact. So looking at that angle also this answer wrong, but most invalid answer is C, because for a private limited no key audit matter. So therefore answer C also wrong. D. Highlight the material uncertainty that exists for the hotel business by including an emphasis of matter paragraph. Actually, this is not an emphasis of matter paragraph. That looks like emphasis of matter paragraph. It's not an emphasis of matter paragraph, but the examiner has used that word in the audit report for the group, and further disclosure if required. So now answer D also correct. Now what is the best appropriate answer in terms of A and D? The best appropriate answer will become a D, because in this first situation only management disclosed, the second situation management also disclosed, but the auditor also gives an additional paragraph on, because there are some material uncertainties which are adequately disclosed. Going concern assumption is appropriate, material uncertainties are disclosed, and then unmodified audit report with an additional paragraph. So therefore answer D is the correct answer. Right. So I saw a lot of students are commenting on this audit report questions. There are a lot of questions for you. Right? Don't investigate into too much. So what you need to look at is, you look at the B with the fundamentals, this plus audit qualification diagram which I show you the previously. So always go with that 2 diagrams, so you will never go wrong. And also remember, going concern reporting is excluded. Going concern reporting is excluded from the normal audit reporting scenarios. That is a specific scenario that has to be addressed according to the auditing standard 570. Right? All other circumstances you can address with the audit report qualifications 705, 706. Right? 159, you are the audit senior of the audit of TRI PLC. TRI PLC, it's a PLC highlight. This is the procedure of TP's audit carried out by your firm. During the course of the audit, you discovered that the TP has not established a risk assessment process in order to identify relevant business risks and determine how to address them. Which of the following statement is true in respect of the above scenario where the company has not established a risk assessment process? What is the question? You are the audit senior of the audit of TRI PLC. This is the procedure of TP's audit carried out by your firm. During the course of the audit, you discovered that the TP has not established a risk assessment process. It is not the auditor's risk assessment here we are talking. We are talking the one element of internal control system, that is risk assessment. How the inside the organization, how the risk has been, how the risk are addressed by the risk assessment through the risk assessment process. Which of the following statement is true in respect of the above scenario where the company has not established a risk assessment process? This practice indicate a significant internal control deficiency. Of course, yes, and it should be communicated in writing to those charged with governance. If a company, if there are no internal control, proper internal control, that has to be communicated to the shareholders if it is a significant deficiency according to the SLAS 265 which we have learned under the internal control. So therefore, absence of a risk assessment is a weakness of internal control system. Absence of a risk assessment is a weakness of internal control system. and as such auditor is required to communicate being a significant deficiency. So it should be communicated in right into those charged with governance. Of course, yes, the answer A. Answer A. So in this answer also answer A is correct. Answer A is correct. We will see other answers. No further action is required as this practice does not constitute an internal control deficiency. No, this is an internal control deficiency. So therefore answer B is wrong. Answer C, risk assessment is not a component of the entity's risk system of internal control that the auditor is required to consider. Answer C also wrong. You know, internal control, there are 5 elements: control environment, risk assessment, communication, control activities and the monitoring. There are 5, out of which number 2nd is risk assessment. It is a part of internal control system. Part D, this practice does not constitute a significant internal control deficiency, but it warrants the management attention, thus communication can be done orally. No, this is a very significant deficiency, because risk assessment is now, let's say COVID-19 situation. If in a bank, if there are no risk assessment process, how you are going to identify the possible threats for the business in future, and how those are addressed in advance, and how the mitigating factors are developed in advance? Nothing will take place. End of the day, those will create a material uncertainties to the business, and then business will get collapsed. So therefore this is going to be an internal control deficiency, not only deficiency but the significant deficiency. So therefore answer D is not that wrong, but it's a less likely. So therefore answer A will be the correct answer. Right, I am coming to the last question of the MCQ discussion. You are the audit engagement manager of the audit of a licensed commercial bank. You have noted that the volume of online banking transaction has increased significantly during the year, and therefore the fee income has increased to an amount above the materiality threshold. It's very common these days, everyone uses online banking. It's being a bank auditor, of course it's a more risky, because lot of transaction volume, number of transactions have gone up, the volume has gone up. So this will create a significant issue for the company as well as significant risk for the auditor. As an audit procedure, you wish to perform a very detailed analytical review of the monthly fee income reported by product, geography, type of customer, etc. for the entire year. This is commonly applied by the audit firm. What would be the most effective and efficient approach in performing the audit procedure? What would be the most effective and efficient approach in performing the above procedure? It's basically testing audit planning, analytical procedures, how the analytical procedures are being used for this online right. Answer A, request for a ledger printout of the fee income, select a representative sample of transaction and perform an analytical review of the transaction data. Ledger එකේ print out එකක් කරන් ඒකෙන් sample එකක් select කරලා ඒකෙන් ARP කරන්නලු. ඒක නම් හරියන්නේ නැහැ. B, get the assistance of the specialist team of the audit firm to perform data analytics. This is again discussed in the digitalization chapter, big data analytics, big data analysis or a data analytics tool, ADA, audit data analytics. We learned that chapter. Analytics on the entire population of fee income based on the criteria specified. Answer A is wrong. Right. Answer B is correct. Let's see. Answer C, extract the fee income details to a Microsoft Excel. Use the function available in Excel subtotal and total the fee income and agree to the general ledger. Excel එකට දාන්න පුළුවන් limit එකක් තියෙනවා, ගොඩක් දාන්න බෑ. ඒක limit එකක් තියෙනවා. ඊට අමතරව කියන්නේ total එක extract the fee income details to a Microsoft Excel. Use the functions available in Excel into subtotal and total fee income and agree to the general ledger. Excel එකට දාලා total එක අරන් බලන්න කියනවා, general ledger එකට tally වෙනවද කියන එක. It is not an analytical procedure. It is a routine audit verification. D, compare the month by month fee income manually. Can you do month by month fee income in a manually for a bank for such a large transaction, such a big amounts involved? Manual verification is not possible at all, right? So with the management accounts, so therefore answer D also wrong, answer C also wrong. So most appropriate answer, if ADA, here the concept tested is ADA, audit data analytics. especially being a bank, you cannot do. You are a chartered student or you are a chartered accountant, you don't know the data analytics in detail, how the software is being used, how those data are imported and exported, how the criteria are set. It's very technical matters. So obviously you have to get your data analytics. Now all the big firms, there is a separate unit called data analytics team. So you can get the data analytics team to support in terms of analyzing the fee income towards to this audit of this commercial bank given here. So therefore, the answer B, get the assistance of specialized team of the audit firm to perform data analytics of the entire population of the fee income based on the criteria specified, right. So with that, MCQ questions are over. So what I want to tell you in a summary, so we discuss in detail these 10 questions, why I discuss in detail for you to just to memorize or just to remind you the theory as well again. But you should remember, if the question is too long, don't get scared, because answer will be very easy. That is the normal theory which I followed when I was studying. If the question is too long, answer is easy, right. And also, don't expect the perfect answer. Try to select the appropriate answer from given scenarios, and always adapt the elimination theory when you are selecting the answers. And the next one, immediate answer that comes to your mind may not be correct in terms of MCQ, right. So if you are getting ready for the next examination, maybe then June or a July, so in that examination now itself, so there are a lot of questions given in the revision kit. So you have to practice those MCQ questions where possible to get familiarized and get the art of this MCQ questions. Right, now we are going to discuss the section 2 of your paper. So there are 4 questions. There are 4 questions, 1 into 10 marks into 40 marks. So I will take you from the question number 5, and I will come to question number 1, because this question number 5 is important and one of the easiest question, and I can quickly finish with you. This question number 5 is the going concern. This is always, as I have told you all. So what you will have to do is, the required part, take the highlighter and highlight the explain, action verb explain 3 indicators that may cause doubt on the going concern ability of TBL. So 3 marks highlight, this explain 3 marks mean you are not supposed to write too much of information, but explain 3 marks, just with the 2 sentence finish it off the answer. Part B, outline, directly outline, so you are not going to explain, it's outlining the point. Outline 3 steps you would perform when gathering sufficient appropriate audit evidence over the going concern ability of TPL, 3 marks. Based on the information given, assess, action verb is assess, this is important one, the impact of the going concern ability of TPL on the auditor's report for 4 marks, total marks 10. So if you look at the part A and B, you are not required to explain too much, but part C you are supposed to explain in a point form at least 3 to 4 points to get your at least 8 to 9 marks from this particular question. Very easy question. There are similar type of question in the KB4 from this type of one, even at the mock exam or even at the revision kit. Very simple question. So question number 5, Trees Private Limited, highlight Trees Private Limited. This is a private limited, we are going to read it. So now I am reading this question to identify the answer for part A. Explain 3 indicators that may cause doubt on the going concern ability of TPL, right. Trees Private Limited is a medium-sized business supplying food and beverage item to 5-star hotels in Colombo. When you are reading auditing questions in a practical scenarios, always remember, so you need to get into the question by understanding. You need to get into the question by absorbing the nature of the business. So this is a very important aspect. If you are not a practicing or a practical audit firm trainee or someone who are not into the practical experience, always you need to think in a hypothetical way or imaginary way, what is this business? Trees Private Limited is a medium-sized business supplying food and beverage item to 5-star hotels. So that means the company is providing goods to the 5-star hotels in Colombo. The business was badly affected by the lockdowns resulting from COVID-19 and had not performed well even by November 2020. You are the audit manager responsible for the audit of the finance statement of TPL for the year ended 30th September 2020. So financial year is very important, the 30th September 2020, but now you are in November 2020. TPL has not paid its creditors and now the suppliers are requesting cash on delivery. The company has applied for a loan from a bank which was offered under a COVID assistance scheme. However, TPL has now defaulted on a number of working capital loan installments that were due since March 2020. It has now drawn down unused facilities to operate. The current ratio as at 30th September 2020 was 1.4 and interest cover was 0.033. The management of TPL believed that the business will pick up once 5-star hotel restart permanently. However, TPL's chief operating officer resigned as the company was unable to pay salaries on time. So you have already informed your audit team to remain alert throughout the audit for evidence casting significant doubt on the TPL's ability to continue in business. At your request, the management had prepared and submitted a going concern assessment together with the future cash flow statement. You have obtained sufficient audit comfort over the management's plan. TPL has operated in its financial statement for the year ended 30th September on a going concern basis. The management expect to authorize the finance statement for issue on 31st January 2021. So now the part A of the question is for you to explain 3 indicators that may cause doubt on the going concern ability of TPL. So this is the chapter number 14 on going concern section, last chapter of the audit evidence. So which we have discussed, even this webinar series also we discuss in detail going concern. So there are type of indication, operational indicators and other indicators, right, and financial indicators. So in such circumstances, now you are supposed to identify those indicators. So now we'll read back the question again. Trace Private Limited is a medium-sized business supplying food and beverage item to 5-star hotels in Colombo. The business was badly affected by the lockdown resulting from COVID-19 and had not performed well even by November 2020. You are the audit manager responsible for the audit of the finance statement of TPL for the year ended 30th September. So that first paragraph is out because first paragraph doesn't carry any indicators towards the going concern. Second paragraph, the TPL has not paid its creditors. Problem, non-payment to creditors. Non-payment to creditors is an indication of the cash flow. It's a financial indication. And suppliers are requesting cash on delivery. Alright, cash on delivery. So that means, so what's happening here? The suppliers are telling, since we are defaulted, so since you have not paid, so we can't supply you the goods. You pay the money, we will supply the goods. So these are indication. Non-payment of creditors, cash on delivery, mode of transactions are indication the company is having a liquidity issue. Liquidity issue, that means they are not in a position to pay to the suppliers on time. So that the suppliers will not supply the goods in future. Sometime we will not be able to pay them and the company will not be able to continue for a foreseeable future. Right, those are indicators number 1 and 2. The company has applied for a loan from bank which was offered under the COVID assistance scheme. However, TPL has defaulted, right, loan defaulted. So you have applied for a COVID loan, the working capital loan at a 4%, it may be the examiner is referring into that. So, but already you have defaulted customer, so you are defaulted means you can't pay the debts or you can't pay the loans on time to the bank. That indicate again the cash flow problem. You don't have adequate in cash inflows to repay the loan, repay the loan, so that indicate again another financial indicators. And then it was now drawn up your unused facilities to operate. The current ratio as at 30th September 2020 for 1.4 and the interest cover was 0.033. So that means again it's a problem. There is an adverse ratio. You see, current ratio 1:4. So that means when the current asset is 1, current liability is into 4. It's a really working capital scenario. You don't have a short-term assets to pay the short-term liabilities. It's a big issue, right? So that indicate number 5, net current liability position. So net current liability position, right, and adverse ratio as well as net current liability position. The management of TPL believed that the business will pick up once the 5-star hotels restart permanently. However, TPL Chief Operating Officer resigned. COO resigned, right. That is also operational indicators. The leaving of a key employees of the organization creates a doubtful scenario that the company will be that the company will be able to continue for a foreseeable future. So if you see in this 2 paragraph, I can see 6, but your examiner is asking only 3. If you can't write this, it is very unfortunate situation at the examination, right. This is a very simple and easiest question. So then 3rd paragraph, 4th paragraph, you have already informed your audit team to remain alert throughout the audit for evidence casting significant doubt on TPL's ability to continue in business. At your request, the management had performed and submitted a going concern assessment. So what has happened? So what has happened there? Right, management, shareholder, auditor. So when you are preparing the finance statement should be on a going concern basis, right. So now there are some indicators. In such circumstances, auditor has come and asked from the management, you give assessment. There are some issues, therefore you give your assessment. So what are the mitigating factors you have, what is your plan, what is the future cash flow, budget finance statement, what is your program, how you are going to recover. So all these informations are requested as a plan from the management since there are material uncertainties of the business, right. That is the 3rd paragraph. At your request, the management had prepared and submitted a going concern assessment together with the future cash flow. So the management has given assessment with the future cash flow statement. You have obtained sufficient audit comfort, so you are happy with that. Right, satisfied. So auditor is satisfied over this. You have obtained sufficient audit comfort over the management plan. So TPL has prepared its financial statement for the year ended 30 September on a going concern basis. The management expect to authorize the finance statement for 31st January 2021. The part A of the question, you might have already highlighted the explain 3 indicators that may cast doubt on the going concern ability of TPL. So there are 6 we have identified out of 3. You are supposed to be just quickly to be explained. Let's say the non-payment of creditors, you have to say non-payment of creditors, the creditors are not being paid, then the creditors will not supply, so it indicates a material uncertainty. And let's say net current liability position, adverse ratios, loan default, cash on delivery, CEO resign, any of the things you can write just to explain with the 2 lines. That is more than enough for the 3 marks. 3 fact. Part B, outline 3 steps. Outline, action verb is outline, you are just mentioned in the point. Outline 3 steps you would perform when gathering sufficient appropriate audit evidence over the going concern of ability. So that means, what are the audit procedures? What are the audit procedures that the auditor is going to do? What are the audit procedures that the auditor is going to do? What are the steps that the auditor take to gather sufficient appropriate audit evidence is requested here. So this is a straightforward direct question from the study text. It's a theoretical question. If there is a going concern problem, what the audit procedures that the auditor should do is tested here. Very simple. If you can remember the study text, you can write there are 14-15 audit procedures, out of which you are supposed to write 3. What are those? Obtain the latest available management accounts and evaluate whether those assumptions used in the assessment is correct or whether the subsequent position is supporting the management assessment. Obtain the latest management accounts, that is number 1. Number 2, you can review the board minutes or a shareholder minutes and see whether what are the discussion they have done in terms of this. This number 3 most important thing, obtain the management assessment and evaluate the accuracy, reasonableness of the management assessment, the cash flow, budgeted, forecasted financial statements. Number 3. Number 4, so meet the lawyer and obtain the legal, review the legal correspondence and see whether there is any problem or whether there is any issues in terms of a legal aspect. Number 5, they review the subsequent event. So now if this is financial year end, that is, let's say 30th September. So now we are in November and accounts are going to be signed in January. So you can review the subsequent event happening in this period, and you can obtain the letter of representation, written representation confirming that what are their plans in the business in future. Likewise, there are 13, 14 given in the study text. You can write 3 out of that. Very easy. Then C, based on the information given above, assess the impact of the going concern ability of TPL in the auditor's report. So now when I was discussing the MCQ question, I took longer time for the going concern because of this. Because this going concern reporting for circumstances which I explained you about 10 minutes back is very much important for your examination. So if you are getting ready for the examination, please write this for scenario in a paper and keep on a place where you study, because every day to see that much of important. So I am not going to explain this scenario again I am not going to write here, because 10 minutes back I explained the 4 scenario. So out of 4 scenario, 1 has to come here. So if you see here, if you read again the last 2 paragraph, you have already informed your audit team to remain alert throughout the audit for the evidence casting significant doubt on TPL's ability to continue in business. At your request, the management had prepared and submitted a going concern assessment together with the future cash flow statement. So that means there are some indication of material uncertainties, but the management has prepared an assessment which you have verified and you are satisfied now. You are happy and you have a sufficient appropriate audit evidence to say that the management assessment is not, we can't say it's correct, we can say it's appropriate, or it's reasonable, right, or it's acceptable for a going concern assumption, because all these are subject to uncertainties, something which is going to happen in future. So therefore auditor should have a certain level of comfort, not the 100% comfort, certain level of comfort on the probability of happening, the assumption, the situations, events, conditions given in this particular assessment. Let's say the company says our revenue will be increased by 20% by next year. Then the auditor should have evidence that to say that the 20% increase is reasonable. If you see the last 10 years, the revenue has gone up by 10%, 20%, and also with the market economic environment in the country is going to be developed, so of course the demand will be high. In such circumstances, auditor come to a conclusion that, look here, okay, the management assumption is reasonable. Actual circumstances, it may be 10 or 30% that we can't predict, but you need to have a certain level of comfort based on the available information as of now. So now you are happy with that. The TPL has prepared its finance statement for the year ended 30th September on a going concern basis. The management expect to authorize the finance statement for issue on 31st January 2021. So that means what? So there are 4 scenarios. Going concern assumption is appropriate, but material uncertainties are disclosed. Then unmodified report with an additional emphasis of matter or the additional paragraph. Going concern assumption is appropriate, but material uncertainties are not disclosed. In such circumstances, qualified or adverse. Going concern assumption is inappropriate, adverse. Management is not willing to extend the assessment, qualified or a disclaimer of opinion. So there are 4 circumstances here, right? So out of these 4 circumstances, what is most appropriate for this given scenario will be number 1. What is that? Going concern assumption is appropriate, but material uncertainties are disclosed. So therefore, unmodified audit report, but you give an additional paragraph after the basis for opinion stating that the material uncertainties in relation to going concern because of all these negative factors which are given in the case scenario. So that is the answer for part C. But somebody will have a question like this. somebody will say, in the nowhere it says, now there are 4 scenarios, no? Of course, the 3 and 4 will not come. 1 and 2. Going concern assumption is appropriate, but material uncertainty is disclosed or not disclosed. We are not sure. Disclosed or not disclosed. We are not sure. So it's not very clear the question it is disclosed or not. But you have to assume that the auditor has satisfied. Auditor has a certain level of comfort. So in such circumstances, you can take the chance of number 1, that is already disclosed adequately. But if somebody has a doubtful whether it is disclosed or not, so you can write this, when you are writing the answer itself, you can properly mention, if the adequately disclosed, this is the answer, adequately not disclosed, this is the answer, but most likely according to the given information it is adequately disclosed. That is why it says auditors have obtained the sufficient audit comfort over the management plan. So that means already disclosed. That's how we have to assume. So both the ways I feel that the answer is correct. Most appropriate answer is number 1, but if you are not sure, you can write the both, but giving more prominence for the number 1. Right. So that is the answer for the question number 5. If you see the answers given in the study text, suggested solution by CA Sri Lanka, question number 5, you see question number 5A, this all 6 indicators that I told you, and then all these procedures are directly study text copy paste in page 418. So this, out of these procedures I told you during that webinar, 6-7 audit procedures, if you can remember, is always better. And if you see the part C, this is the answer given for part C. The auditor should consider whether a material uncertainty exists in relation to events or conditions that may cast doubt on the entity's ability to continue as a going concern, as whether this will have an impact on the opinion issued in the auditor's report, because the uncertainty must be disclosed. In relation to TPL, as there are indicators that may cause significant doubt about the going concern ability, and as the auditor has obtained the management plan, the auditor can conclude that the disclosure is adequate. Therefore, the going concern assumption for TPL is appropriate, but there is a material uncertainty which is adequately disclosed. So therefore, the opinion in the finance statement will be unmodified, but the auditor's report should include a material uncertainty related to going concern paragraph that explains the uncertainty. Right. So now I am going to the next question, that is question number 1. Question number 2. Question number 2, so that means question number 1 of section 2. So that is a very simple, again that is not that difficult question, as I told you at the beginning. These questions in the section 2 are not that difficult if you properly address, because not like MCQ or not like long case scenarios. Right. So question number 2 is from the other assurance engagement section of your syllabus, that is the syllabus weightage is 10%. So again it is if you know the fundamentals of the theory, so this is one of the easiest question. Question number 2, you are an audit manager of P&N Associate, a firm of chartered accountants, Excel Private Limited, one of your leading software development company operating in Sri Lanka, has approached you to obtain a professional service provided by your firm. Excel is interested in granting shares to its long outstanding employees as a reward for their service. The number of services granted to each employee will be directly proportional to the years of service of each employee. The management of Excel has asked your firm to check the dates of joining of each employee by referring to their personal files and calculate the years of service of each employee and prepare a report. The report would be available only to the management of Excel and it can be distributed by any other users. Part A, assess the most appropriate engagement type that PNS should undertake to provide the service requested by Excel. Assess the most appropriate engagement. So I told you sometime some other webinars as well. So you have to have a very clear cut diagram on any question that you are going to do at this assurance service. This diagram which I gave some time back in the webinar also you should remember. It will help you to avoid the misunderstanding or the wrong conclusion towards to this assurance engagement. I can't draw a full diagram, but I will try to draw for a certain level. Right. The services provided by CA is divided into two. Right. One is assurance services. Right. Other one is non-assurance services. Right. These assurance services are divided into two: historical financial information, other one is other information. Right. So if you look at the assurance services and non-assurance services, that means if any service to become assurance services, you know there are 5 principles. 5 principles in our basic diagram of assurance work that has to be complied. What are those 5 principles? Number 1, 3-party relationship. Number 2, appropriate subject matter. Number 3, suitable criteria. Number 4, evidence, sufficient and appropriate evidence. Number 5, report. Remember, if any work provided by a chartered accountant, even though a practicing chartered accountant or any other chartered accountant, if any service to become assurance service, these 5 criteria should be satisfied. Right? If these criteria are not satisfied, it is called non-assurance services. Otherwise, we call related services. Right? These related services, we have a 2. We call agreed upon procedures and compilation engagement. There are 2 things: agreed upon procedures and compilation engagement. So if you look at the other information, we have prospective financial information, key performance indicators, internal controls. Right? Likewise, you can take anything, greenhouse or anything you can take as other information. Like due diligence also you can take for a certain level, but DDs can be done and agreed upon as well. Historical financial information can be divided into 2. Basically, reasonable assurance and the limited assurance. The reasonable assurance is audit. Limited assurance is review. Right. So audits are done by Sri Lanka Standard on Audit. Sri Lanka Auditing Standards. Sri Lanka Auditing Standards. And then the review, there are 2 reviews. Sri Lanka Standard on Review Engagement 2400 and 2410. There is a difference between these 2. 2410 mean what? So those are review engagement for interim finance statement. This is a full set of finance statement. This can be done by the auditor of the company. This cannot be done by the auditor of the company. Right? And then these are coming with Sri Lanka Standard on Assurance Engagement 3000, 3050, 3400, 3402, 3420. Likewise, there are so many standards. This is coming on Sri Lanka Standard on Related Services 4400, Sri Lanka Standard on Related Services 4410. So I just gave you a quick introduction into this. Whenever you are deciding what is the type of assurance engagement at the examination, please draw this diagram and make the conclusion. Don't go to a conclusion just looking at the question. You may go wrong. One of the most important thing that you should look at is assurance work or non-assurance work. How look at that is assurance. This is the key decision that has to be made at the examination. How that is to be done? When you are doing this, look at, If these 5 criteria are satisfied, it is assurance, otherwise it is non-assurance. That is the most important aspect. Now we will look at this question. So you are the audit manager of Fee and Associate, a firm of chartered accountant, Excel Private Limited, one of your leading software development company operating in Sri Lanka, has approached you to obtain a professional service provided by your firm. So if we look at here, Excel is the company, right? They have approached the chartered accountants firm as of now. So Excel is interested in granting shares to its long-standing employees as a reward for their service. The number of shares granted to each employee will be directly proportional to the years of service each employee. The management of Excel has asked your firm to check the dates of joining of each employee by referring to their personal files and calculate the year of service. So it's the management has requested some calculation to be done by looking at the information given by the management. Right, personal file and calculate the years of each employee and prepare a report. The report would be available only to the management. You see, generally shareholders are coming here, general law diagram. But of course, remember, since shareholder in this situation, only management is requesting. The report will be given to the management. Of course, you cannot see a tripartite relationship here. So that means first concept is itself not satisfied. If there are no tripartite relationship, you can't look at even here. Understand? If there are no tripartite relationship, you can't look at even here, except due diligence. Right? Due diligence, remember, this can be come here as well as this can come here. That is depending on the requirement. So if there are no tripartite relationship, remember, that is a non-assurance service. Here itself you can see, this is requested by the management, of course, therefore, it is coming under the non-assurance services. Now, non-assurance services, there are 2, agreed upon and compilation engagement. Compilation mean what? We are giving the information for you to prepare the financial statement. So someone is giving me the bank statement, receipt, payment vouchers and all that, asking me to keep the book, do the bookkeeping and prepare the financial, that is compiling the information, compiling the financial statement. So of course this is not a compiling financial information. Here management is asking us to do some type of computation looking at the information. So that is, therefore, this has to be done under the agreed upon procedures, because it is agreed. What is the word of agreed upon procedures? You are agreeing with the management for you to do something which is required by the management. You are not going to give an opinion or any form of conclusion, any form of assurance. Based on the information that we are going to give, you make the conclusion. We are going to give the information as a practitioner, you make the conclusion. You mean management make the conclusion. If it is an audit, what happens? We make the conclusion. Chartered accountant practitioner gives the conclusion that the finance statements are free from material misstatement. It agreed upon, we don't make the conclusion, let the conclusion to be made by the client. So therefore, there are no tripartite relationship. So it's a agreed upon work. So answer A, part A, assess the most appropriate engagement type that P&S should undertake to provide the service. So 4 marks, you have to write into 4. Now anybody can look at this answer, anybody can see this, most of you will select the answer agreed upon procedures, but you don't know whether how to write for the 4 marks. Highlight so when you are writing, you have to clearly write, right? So this is not an assurance engagement because of this this 5 criteria. These all 5 are not satisfied. Tripartite relationship is not here, right? And we are requested by the management. We are reporting to the management. There are no tripartite relationship involved, right? And subject matter is there, but criteria also given by the management, and evidences will be gathered to just for your conclusion, and the report will be given. So all 4 are it is there, but the main one is not satisfied. Therefore, it is not an assurance engagement, and also this is purely requested by the management purpose, and we don't make any conclusion that is made by the management itself, and we are giving only for the management information. Therefore, this is a agreed upon work. So that 4 point at least you have to write the way that is expected by the examiner. Part B, discuss the level of assurance that should be provided in the report to be issued in the Excel under the engagement type assessed in A above, 3 marks. Of course, you should remember, if it is a non-assurance, there is no level of assurance. You know the theory? You know the theory which we discussed some time back. We call absolute assurance, reasonable assurance, limited assurance. Basically, there are two types of assurance that a chartered accountant gives: reasonable assurance and the limited assurance. So, in agreed upon, no assurance is provided. No assurance is provided. So, the question is, discuss the level of assurance that should be provided in the report to be issued by Excel under the type of assessed in A above. No assurance is provided. It is a zero assurance. It is not the absolute assurance, not the reasonable assurance, not the limited assurance. It is a zero assurance. That means no assurance is provided. It's something like we report, you decide. Like Sirius News. But there is some tagline. No, we report, you decide or something. We report, you decide. We are not taking a responsibility. We are not giving assurance on the information. But we report, you decide. We report, you decide. No assurance is provided. You have to clearly say no assurance is provided because there are no tri-party involvement and we are just reporting the information what we gathered, but you have to make your own conclusion. Part C, state 3 key elements to be included in the report of the management. Report of the management assessed in A above. It's a very simple question. I don't know. But remember, දැන් බලන්න මෙන්න මේක. ඔයාලා මේකෙදි part A වැරදුනා නම් ඉතුරු ලකුණු 10ම නැත. ඇයි? අපි මේකට agreed upon එකක් වෙනුවට මෙන්න මේ prospective හරි මොකක් හරි වෙන එකක් දැම්මා නම් part B උත්තරේ වැරදි, part C උත්තරේ වැරදි. So therefore, it's very critical for you to make the correct decision in terms of assurance engagement by applying this diagram at the examination. So part C, state 3 key elements to be included in the report of the engagement assessed in part A above. So here, so key elements, you know, audit report, you know what are the items to be included. Even a practicing factual finding report, otherwise agreed upon report in the study text, it has given what are the information should come. Let's say somebody forget everything. Let's say somebody forgets everything, can't remember what to come to the report. But any report, the audit report එක හරි audit report එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ මොනවද? Title, මාතෘකාවක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. Address, කාටද මේක ලියන්නේ කියලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. අස්සම් කරලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. Date එකක් දාලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඉතින් ඔය හතරම ලිව්වා නම් මෙතන ලකුණු 3ක් ඇවිල්ලානේ. No need to remember anything, only you need a common sense and you need to have a smart way of attending to the questions, right? Let's say if somebody can remember the report format, title, addressee and works agreed, outcome, independent statement, right? And third party distribution statement and signature, date, location, all these are there in the report. Right? Even if somebody forgets everything, even if you can remember the audit report, certain things are applicable there itself. So here basically what happens, management is asking us to do something, we report on that. In the report what's happening, we are telling we have agreed to do this type of thing and we have done, this is our outcome. That is the report. Right, so if you quickly look at the answer given by the examiner or a suggested solution given by the CA Sri Lanka, right, sorry. So agreed upon procedure, it has given us a part A answer. Part B, so no assurance is provided. And part C, you see any of the three of this report can be put there. Title, addressee, identify specific financial or non-financial like listing, all these are there. right? So there are about 16 items. Right, so now we will quickly discuss the next question. The next question will be the question number 3. Question number 3, it is from the Code of Ethics as well as the SLIS 250. Question number 3, first look at the required section. The required section explains the responsibility of MNS to consider the laws and regulation in the audit of ethic finance statement of MS under SLIS 250, consideration of laws and regulation in an audit of finance statement for 4 marks. It's a basically theoretical question. Action verb is explain. Number of marks 4 marks, highlight that. Then part B, based on the information given in the scenario above, assess one ethical threat that may affect the independence of MNS. Considering the fact that MF is a listed company, discuss 2 specific actions that MNS is required to perform in relation to ethical threat assessed in part B above per Code of Ethics for Professional Accountant issued by CA Sri Lanka. So now A, B, C. So 10 marks, 3, 3, 4 marks has been tested. So this is a combination of part B and C from the Code of Ethics chapter and the part A mainly from the Audit Planning section, chapter number 6. Right. You are the audit manager, quickly will read. You are the audit manager of the audit of Microfinance PLC, a company engaged in the provision of microfinance loans and mobilization of public deposits. MF is incorporated under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011 and licensed and monitored by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Your firm MNS Associate has been the auditor for the MF for the last 3 years. So we are the auditor for the last 3 years, and this is a microfinance company. This is a PLC microfinance company. So they are into basically finance field, and this is the background information given in the question. Then second paragraph, you have been informed by your engagement partner that MNS has agreed to provide some additional non-audit services of MF from this year onward. Those non-audit services are considered permitted services. Now you know, being a PLC, certain services are not allowed, prohibited. Let's say for example, accounting service, payroll services for a PLC is prohibited. So that, but according to this statement given, those are permitted services. The fees to be received from MS for the audit and non-audit services will represent 17% of the total fee income of MNS, and for the current year 15.5 last year. During the course of the audit, a suspicious transaction was discovered. The transaction is not material to the financial statements. However, the team reported this transaction to the management partner of the audit. The team reported this transaction to the management engagement partner of the audit and money laundering reporting officer. Money laundering reporting officer. So there is a person under the NOCLA, guideline. So every firm should have a person called money laundering reporting officer. It's coming as a requirement of the central bank as well. After analyzing the information available on the transaction, the MLRO, money laundering reporting officer, decided this suspicious transaction must be reported to the Financial Intelligence Unit, which is established within the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. However, the engagement partner of the audit of MS asked the ML money laundering reporting officer to consider whether they can refrain from reporting this matter to the FIU due to the fear of losing the client. Is very, very common, very practical. It's a very realistic scenario is given by the examiner, right? So audit firm has always this threat there in business, because always 15% of your 17% of your revenue is from one of the client. So always you have fear about the losing the clients, because you have to pay the salary, the royalties for the global firms, and there are a lot of pressure come in the financial. So in the meantime, you have to comply with the laws and regulation given by the CA Sri Lanka as well as in terms of this finance company, Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Now this is obviously it's a threat for the chartered accountant in practice, right? So it's understood the case study. Number 1, explain the responsibility of M&S to consider laws and regulation in the audit of the finance statement of FF under the SLA US 250. It's a very straightforward theory question. කෙලින්ම අහනවා laws and regulation සම්බන්ධයෙන් audit එකේ තියෙන responsibility එක මොකක්ද කියලා. So this is a straightforward theoretical question. Right, under SLA US 250, what is the responsibility of the auditor in terms of compliance with the laws and regulation? What you need to write in this answer? First point you should say, the management is responsible. Management is responsible for preventing and detecting non-compliance. Management is responsible in terms of preventing and detecting non-compliance with the laws and regulation of a company, right? Audit number 2, you should say, auditor is not responsible to detect all non-compliances. So auditor is not responsible for preventing, as well as auditor is not responsible for detecting all non-compliances. But however, number 3, however, right, auditor should consider the non-compliances of the laws and regulation under the 2 headings. Right. There are certain laws that has a direct effect There are certain laws and regulations which have direct effect on determination of the finance statement figures. Let's say, for example, legal case filed against the company, which is a contingent liability, or let's say a provision that has a direct effect to the finance statement determination of the finance statement figures. So if there is any laws or regulation which is applicable for the company which are audited by you, that has a direct effect of determination of the financial figures, then auditor shall obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidences. If there are non-compliances with regard to directly affecting to the financial statement, auditor shall perform the audit procedures to gather sufficient appropriate audit procedures, audit evidences on such non-compliances. Other one that has not a direct effect. Right. There can be certain circumstances, there are certain non-compliance of the laws and regulation which are not directly affecting to the financial statement or financial figures or the transaction. Right. So in such circumstances, auditor does not have a direct responsibility to perform the audit procedures and gather sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, but auditor may perform a limited procedures like inquiries, reviewing the correspondence, like that. So limited procedures will be done, and accordingly will gather the evidences and mostly will report to the management for their correction, right. So this is the responsibility part. This is there in the study text very clearly. In terms of compliance with the laws and regulation, management is responsible in implementing internal controls to detect all non-compliance with the laws and regulation and to ensure compliance with the laws and regulation applicable for their business. That is management responsibility. Second, auditor is not responsible to prevent non-compliances or detect all non-compliances. Prevent non-compliance or detect all non-compliances, we are not responsible, right. However, auditor will consider non-compliances which could create a material misstatement in the financial statement. Auditor should consider non-compliances which could create a material misstatement in the financial statement. That end of the day, that is auditor's responsibility. By doing so, auditor will consider two things, that has a direct effect and that doesn't have a direct effect. If there are non-compliances or laws and regulation that has a direct effect, auditor shall perform the audit procedures and gather the sufficient appropriate audit evidence. But if there are laws and regulation which don't have a direct effect to the financial statement, auditor will perform a limited audit procedures like inquiry or the reviewing the correspondence like that, and especially these are operational angle of the company and will report to the management, right? In addition to that, the last one, auditor will remain alert. Number 4, auditor will remain alert throughout the audit and maintain the professional skepticism by doing other audit procedures to see whether there are any non-compliances, right? So these are the 4 matters which is expected by the examiner, exactly copy paste from the study text, right? If you see the answer, you see all 4 points I give. What I told you, auditors are not responsible for preventing non-compliance with the laws and regulation, and they cannot be expected to detect non-compliance with all the laws and regulation. So they have a responsibility to obtain reasonable assurance that the finance statements are free from material misstatement whether caused by fraud or error. MS responsibility differs in relation to the 2 different categories of laws and regulation identified below. Laws and regulation that have a direct effect on the determination of material amounts and disclosures in the finance statement. Here the auditor is responsible for obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the compliance. And then laws and regulation that do not have a direct effect, which I explained you. And then the last paragraph, MNS also has a responsibility to remain alert by maintaining professional skepticism to the possibility that other audit procedures may bring instances of identified or suspected non-compliances, right? It's a very perfect answer, this 4 point if you had written. So the number of marks you would have taken, that is given by the examiner for a 4 marks, right? Part B, based on the information given in the scenario above, assess one ethical threat that may affect the independence of MNS. So this is, I am not going to read the question. So you have a last year 15.5%, if I am not mistaken, going to be 17% revenue. This audit firm is going to get this revenue from this particular microfinance company, which creates, you are depending your higher percentage of fees from a one client, which creates self-interest and intimidation, both intimidation. So self-interest mean what? So since you are getting so much of fees from that client, so you are always ready to divert, you could divert your objectivity other than the financial statement somehow to keep the client, because that income is very much important. As well as the client can intimidate you, since I am paying this much of amount for you, so you need to make this adjustment in the financial statement, can be intimidation. So therefore the answer is self-interest as well as intimidation threat could arise. That is the answer that has to be explained as I explained. Then part C, considering that the fact that MF is a listed company, discuss 2 specific action that MNS is required to perform in relation to the ethical threat assessed in part B above, as per the Code of Ethics for Professional Accountant issued by CA Sri Lanka. This is very clear in the study text also. So when there is a higher percentage fees from the client, of course in the private limited you could put some safeguard and manage it. But if it is a PLC, the Code of Ethics is very clear, study text is very clear. There what you have to do. If you are depending is more than 15%, if you are depending or if you are getting a income from one client more than 15%, so it is a self-interest and intimidation threat is high. If it is a PLC, it's very clear in the code, you have to do 2 things. You have to communicate to those charged with governance, and you have to do an external review at the end of the second year. At the end of the second year. So, Code of Ethics say this 15% is for continuously for not only 1 year, it has to be for 2 consecutive years. ගිය අවුරුද්දෙත් 15 ගිය අවුරුද්දේ 12 මේ පාර 15. එතකොට 1 year එක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. ගිය අවුරුද්දෙත් 15 මේ අවුරුද්දෙත් 15 or more than 15. Yes, of course, then there's a PLC. There are 2 things to be done. One is informing to those charged with governance such as audit committee. Secondly, performing an external review. That external review can be done by an external consultant or external accountant, not the external accountant or external regulatory body. For example, Sri Lanka Accounting Auditing Standard Monitoring Board or Sri Lanka regulatory body can come and that review. That review has to take place at the second year, end of the second year. End of the second year mean it can be done before the second year financial statements are signed off, audit reports are issued, or immediately after the second year financial statements are signed off. This is called pre-issuance and post-issuance review. So, that is very clearly given in the study text. I hope that you might have answered that question. So, if you see that question, see part B, self-interest and intimidation, high percentage of fees, which I explained you, and also the part C is for the audit client that are public interest entities, the court state that where the total fee from the client represent more than 15% of the firm total fee, for 2 consecutive years the firm shall disclose this to those charged with governance and arrange for a review to be conducted either by an external professional accountant or by a regulatory body. This review can be either before the audit opinion on the second year's financial statement is issued, pre-issuance review, or after it is issued. Right, that is the question number 3.